久しぶり。すみません。長い間、長い間、新しいYouTube ビデオしませんでした。ごめんなさい。理由はちょっと忙しかったです。でも今日はエピソード81、パンチとスタンス、たくさん進めたいしましょう。はい、行け。Alright, so today is episode 81, and we're going to talk a little more into detail of the punch and stance and how things function and relate to one another. Recently, we did a seminar, and it really helped lay down the foundations of organizing everything. And I know, I know, actually, I don't remember what the last episode was, so it doesn't really matter because whatever I talk about at that particular time is all that matters, and you can link it and organize it any way you want. But when we talk about the stance, you have to understand what things do and how things relate to get the end result overall. So basically, in the beginning stages of punch and stance, punch, stance, you just stand. You learn how to control basically your center of gravity. These are generalizations. Punch, you're learning the coordination of moving the fist back and forward, okay? But if we look we're going to take it a little bit deeper in this particular episode and how everything's relate to each other and how you benefit from the motion. So when you're in your stance, there are certain things that you do, particularly in the stance, that you have to control. When you practice, you want to practice things that lead to automatic response when the force comes upon you, or in general, right? In other words, if some force comes upon me and it hits my hand to my stance, you see myself fidgeting to deal with that force, that in itself is reactionary to the point that, reaction's always whatever, 1 seconds behind. It's always delayed, okay? So what you want instead is to have that natural response that's automatic, where you're not actually falling behind from the moment you touch, but actually from the moment of touch, you're actually linked to the subject immediately. So you develop that. This is all, we can go deeper into that later on, but this is all development for yourself as far as how you do I guess you could say self-merge to the ground itself, okay? So in the stance, you basically have to control certain things. There's things you actively control and the passive results from that. So we know that from Nichikima, from the back of the neck to the tuck-in, you have a certain tension. This is what you control. Now, you don't max out this tension, but you have enough tension so there's flexibility within the spine to adjust to that particular force. The correlation between these two, as far as the tension is concerned, leads to a direct result of the knees adjusting from that point on. Now, the other function that you have from the stance is basically from the ground up, meaning up from the knee point, staying passive as well, is there's touching the ground and there's like utilizing the ground. And the best way so far I've been able to describe this is like a lot of people just stand and they feel okay, but the center of gravity feels okay, but you're not actually utilizing the ground. Think of utilizing the ground almost like, this is the closest description, but without using muscle. Like if I'm about to jump, right here, I'm on the ground, but I can't jump. But when I go down like this, I'm engaging, it feels like you're engaging the floor more before you can jump. That's what I mean by using the ground, because you have the tension that you control actively, right? To make sure you're vertical and stay straight. The ground up, your basic job from the ground up, from the feet up to the knees, is make sure that's centered into the center of gravity. So if you do those things correctly, control the right things correctly, you'll have an automatic response to how your center of gravity actually reacts, okay? So think of it this way. I'm concerned about laying the foundation. Like I'm lining up structurally how the bones are aligned in order to make myself vertical in the stance. As far as the motion is concerned, same thing as well. The perfect motion with the punch, right? If you perfectly do the punch in place, you're lining up. The motion, a smooth motion leads to a natural motion as far as linking the structure as well. So you have hands, bodies, and leg. The hand, body, and leg. That physical activity of what you're doing is like lining it up perfectly so that you can have a certain result happen. Now, since we're only talking about you yourself, the reason the punch and stance is so important is when the motion occurs, right? The motion creates vibration, right? Like T-Rex, you see like a shaking from that because why? The Rex is moving. So by just standing in place, you're internally moving, but not enough. So what you do is you line yourself up to like 99%. This is just a figure, just so you can visually see it. I line up my structure from the legs to the body and the arm when I move it. Legs, body, arm, and when I do motion, that creates vibration, right? You see the shaking. When the vibration occurs, that basically at the end of the vibration, or end of the motion, since all this is moving, right? The legs, body, and arm is moving when you initiate that motion. It's like linking everything together. It's like the final stage as far as solidifying the overall structure. You need a vibration to link everything together. And then once you can link that together, then in turn, you actually connect yourself to the ground so internally you can release the flow and the power of the motion, okay? I give the best example as if your job physically, right, is to line up like dominoes in line, right? You have dominoes separated. If you line up perfectly, you'll get the end result of releasing the flow, releasing the power. You line that up, so I'm lining up my leg, my body and arm, right? When I start, the motion is occurring, that motion is a vibration, making everything line up one after another, right? I'm lining up, everything's moving, everything's stopping at the same time. And then when you do that, the result is from the ground up, you can actually release the power. You have the support of the ground or the use of the ground to release the power. So when you practice, that's why you practice a punch over and over again. If just standing is not enough. Standing results, maybe you practice the stance, but to finalize and complete the full motion, you need the motion of the punch to actually lock you in place. So if I exaggerate, right? A lot of people, when they punch, they like try to power it. That you should never feel any kind of that internal muscular contraction. But instead, when you do the motion smoothly, that last motion, the vibration that has occurred from there, links you all together like the dominoes. And then when I link it together like this, imagine everything's lined up perfectly. That allows for the flow. That's the end goal of why you practice the punch over and over again. If at any point the motion is incorrect, or you're using more muscle or tightening up, you're gonna kill the flow. So that's why you just need the necessary things to maintain the stance, to make sure the motion is correct, and you'll get maximum release at that point. It's not that you don't have some kind of flow motion here, but think of it like how much are you actually utilizing from the ground up, okay? So think of it that way to help you understand as far as the function, as far as I line things up, line up this, then the punch in itself creates vibration, right? And then almost like I'm 99% there, and then now I initiate the domino effect, and then it ends. By the time it ends, then from there you have the full flow releasing upon you, okay? So hopefully that makes sense, and definitely practice. Jamata.